It's preparing.
Okay, we are, let me start.
Okay, please.
Good afternoon, dear learners. I hope each one of you is okay. Good afternoon, dear learners. I hope you guys have enjoyed a nice lunch. My name is Bbumba Patrick, and we are going to be doing biology with you. This is the senior 3 class. So whoever is here, this is senior 3. There are some people who get lost and they're supposed to be in senior 1, then they come here like that. So this is senior. Feel free to ask anything, and if you have any question, go to pick you and then you answer. In case you can't use the audio, you can always type your question. Have chat, you can always type your question. I'll be able to answer it. Now, before we begin this topic, there is something that something wasn't adding up, like when I was thinking about it, and this made me to get very many questions in my head. And I am hoping to get answers from you, dear learners, who are listening in from me. As you can see here, you can picture this is a person, and the person is trying to switch on the light. But when the person switches on the light, the bulb lights immediately. And my question is, what makes this bulb to light immediately when this person has switched on the light? I would like to have your views, your answers on this very fast. You can put up your hand and then you give me your view. When this person switches on the light, what makes it to light very fast? What do you think, dear learners? I'm saying we are many here. Feel free and type your answer in the chat box in case you can't raise your hand, or you can raise your hand and you tell us. When I ask you to unmute very fast and you give us your answer. Yes, Ronnie.
I think it's coordination.
You mean when someone switches on the light, like in your home, that is called coordination? Hmm?
No, that's...
Hey, it is what? What makes the bulb to light very fast?
Mechanical energy is converted to electric energy, then the light, then the bulb lights.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that opinion. Let us pick someone else. Our Martha is saying electrons. Okay. And then Tekino, what do you have to say?
The flow of electrons.
Okay, thank you very much. Tekino says the flow of electrons. So I think you can see that people are having some ideas, because it is really fascinating and interesting that the moment you tap the hand on your switch, the bulb lights immediately. Why is it that the bulb does not take like over 5 minutes to light? Why is it that it lights immediately? What are those things that move within the wire to make the light to light? I don't know whether you're getting my questions. What are those things that make that bulb light? Yes, Asio. I see your Mercy.
Flow of current.
What do you mean by current?
Electricity.
Thank you, Mercy. Yeah, electricity. So when you turn on, and you guys will agree with me that each one of you here who is in our class has ever seen electricity somewhere before, or you live with electricity. Actually, the reason as to why you are able to hear me now is because you charged your devices using electricity, which electricity moves or flows within wires. Now, you know that you guys have wires in your bodies. You have wires, okay? You have wires, you are wired. That means you have electricity in your bodies. But then the question is, how is this electricity generated and how does it flow? And what are those wires in your body? So this topic that we are going to be looking at is going to be making us aware of the kind of electricity that moves in our body, the kind of wires and all those things. And it's called coordination. With the coordination, there are systems that we are going to learn. Those wires that are in our body. I'll tell you the name for the wires. I'll tell you the different organs that generate this kind of electricity that is in our body. Now, my name is Teacher Bbumba Patrick, and this is the Senior 3 class, the biology class, and I'm going to be taking you through this topic of coordination in animals, but mainly seeing on the humans, much as we are humans, but we are also animals. So the coordination that we're going to be looking at in terms of animals is mainly focusing on the humans as animals. And I think we can start right away. With coordination, you must know that as one of the characteristics that animals is being able to sense. But why do animals sense within their environment? That means they must have the ability, their bodies must have the ability to detect and then respond appropriately the different stimuli. Now, the stimuli are those different things within the environment that can evoke a response in an organism or in an animal. So that means the animal's body must have the ability to detect. So it must have things in its body to detect. Those are like wires, which I'll talk about, and then to be able to respond, different organs of the animal's body to those different stimuli, and depends on the nervous and endocrine system. Now, the system is mainly made up of, we call it the nervous system, the one that generates electricity within our bodies. Someone saying that you didn't get clearly. What do you mean? From the start? I think you came late. So the nervous system is what we are going to learn in detail for this session. And then if God gives us more time, probably we shall also reach the endocrine system. Now, the endocrine system mainly involves hormones. Hormones, they're like chemical substances that are produced in our bodies by different organs, and they affect how we respond in so many ways. Benjamin is saying, sir, I am not understanding you. What do you mean by you are not understanding me? Because we are just starting. So you can see that in our bodies, we have what I am calling, okay, Bernadette has a question. Let me first get Bernadette's question. Bernadette, can you unmute very fast and you ask?
Yes, your network is somehow not clear. I'm not. So I'm saying your network is somehow not clear.
Is it my network or your network? Are you guys not getting me well?
No,
Maybe,
but as if the word, your
I think
voice
your
is
network
cutting,
is the one which
So you are trying to explain and
okay. Let me first get feedback from some other people, and I see whether, as I saying, you are clear. The network, Lisa, is clear. So some people are getting me well, and some people are not getting me well. That means the problem is not with my network. The problem is with some of your networks. Okay. Try to get to a place that has a little bit of more network so that you can get me clearly. So I think we can now continue, and then we start. Okay. People are getting me clearly. Thank you, people. So now what you must know is that the nervous system that we are going to be looking at is a system of nerves and sensory organs that carry out coordination by transfer of impulses. Now, system of nerve cells. These nerve cells are the ones which I am calling wires, that we are all wired. The brain, the whole brain system, which is inside your cranium, that is the skull, is made up of mainly nerve cells. Of course, they are like interconnecting wires inside. I'm referring them to as like wires because you are so much used to the word wire, since you have seen wires being used in a transmission of electricity. So because you have seen wires being used in transmission of electricity, so I decided to use that term wire to mean the nerve cells. Now, these nerve cells are the ones which are going to conduct what we are calling impulses, like the electricity in our body, so that when you touch something, you're able to feel it. When someone slaps you, you feel the slap because those nerve cells are the ones that pick up the pain from the slap. They take it to the brain. The brain interprets as, hey, this is a slap. And then information is sent back to your muscles, whether you fold your muscles and you fight back, or you fold your muscles and you run away, or you cry. So depending on what the brain decides. So that's the nervous kind of coordination made up of nerve cells. Now, the human nerves or the nervous system can be divided into two major parts or systems. The first one is called the nervous system. Just like the word central, it means the main, the major, or the middle. Now, the central system, we shall say it's made up of the brain that is in the skull, in your head, and then the spinal cord. So the brain runs just from your that part which is in your skull, and then to your backbone. So your brain actually, in form of spinal cord, it flows from just the neck down up to where your bum, the bum, akabina. For some of you understand Luganda, bum is called akabina. That bum. So in the whole vertebral column, you have the spinal cord. So both of those make the central nervous system. Then on the sides, so there are some cells which radiate, that is, they move from to that moving on the sides. They make the peripheral nervous system. Actually, the word peripheral means something towards the extreme side or on the side of something. And those nerve cells are in millions. They're in millions of interconnected neurons. Now, this word neuron, if you feel like it is confusing you, you can use the word nerve cell, the nerves. If you don't want to call them nerves, you can call them neurons. Now, they form the nervous system. And here is a picture of the motor neuron, and you can see how they are interconnected. Now, the connections are like small, small wires within our bodies. And actually, if that wire or these nerves are cut off from one portion, part of your hand may never feel again. For example, there's some of you who used to be caned at school or in school, and there are some people who will never feel canes on their bums. It means their nerves, part of their nerves on the bum or on the ass, they got spoiled. So they can no longer transmit impulses for interpretation on the brain. And that's why you wouldn't feel the pain. I hope you're getting it. So let us continue. Now, the nervous system, I've already told you it's made up of the central nervous system. And the central nervous system is made up of the brain and the spinal cord. And of course, the brain can also be divided into different portions. Now, this one will be for a later lesson where we shall study the brain in detail, as well as the spinal cord. Now, the peripheral nervous system, this one links the body to the outside world. If you are having your, I'm assuming, okay, let me draw a skeleton. I'm assuming this is your skeleton with eyes, okay? And then on from there, it runs and forms the vertebral bone. I'm assuming these are the vertebral bones. Now you got, this is where you're going to find the central nervous system that runs from the brain, which is in the skull, into your vertebral bones. Now the peripheral is just going to be on the side. You can see that there are some nerves that run from your neck and as well as from the thoracic region, and then as well as in the abdominal region. All those fall under the peripheral nervous system. Now these nerves connect the different body parts of the body to the main, to the brain, that is the central nervous system, and the spinal cord, such that interpretation and coordination can occur smoothly. And we are going to understand the peripheral nervous system in detail. Of course, it is also divided into what we call the autonomic nervous system. Just like the word auto, auto means self. I think you've heard of self cars, like you just press a button and it starts. It's automatic. You don't need, so these ones are involuntary. You don't think about them in order to be carried out. For example, can you command your intestines to begin digesting food? No, you cannot command your intestines. Can you command your heart to stop pumping blood and then to resume pumping blood? So that is involuntary. You lead, you control it. So autonomic nervous system, I repeat, autonomic nervous system. These ones, you don't have control over them. So they occur within your body on a daily basis, like heart rate, your heart pumps, but you don't control it. Respiration or contraction of your pupil of the eye. So all these ones, they occur without you knowing, and then the somatic nervous system. Now these ones, they occur when you have willed. For example, you may like to walk or to jump. All those ones are controlled under the somatic nervous system, okay? But then this autonomic nervous system is also further divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. Now, some new terms to you, but don't worry, just relax. Things are going to be simple with time. Now, let us, if you have understood, let us first do some small quiz here. The first question says, this is question 1, and then this is question. The two main divisions of the central nervous system are, if you have been following, the two main divisions of the central nervous system are, you can always type your answers in the chat box, or you may raise your hand. IVK says that it is C. IVK says it is C, that is brain and spinal cord. Technospark C, Bernadette says C, Marvin says C, Jole Joseph says C, Yeah, I'm seeing Kirabo is having her hand up. Yes, Kirabo.
Choice C.
Okay, thank you, Kirabo. So I think people have been able to get it. It is actually C. Thank you. It is actually C. So the two main divisions of the central nervous are the brain and spinal cord. Then the peripheral nervous system consists of this A was I forgot to make it unbold, but it's not the, I don't want to say that it's a correct answer. You may first tell me what do you think it is. So number 2, Daniela says number 2, the spinal cord and cranial nerves. Daniela Victoria, thank you for that. I don't know whether all of you agree with Daniela. Lona says E, Annette says B. OJ says B. I think here Jole says C. So I think here people are a little bit confused about the correct answer. People are a little bit confused. Let me go. I think let me first choose C. Ronnie says C. Danny says C. Marvin says B. C. Danny says E. Jesse says D. And here we are having so many different answers. People are just choosing. Now let me explain to you each objective so that we can see. Martha says E. Annette says E. So the spinal nerves. Okay. Let me redraw. I'm assuming this is the skeleton. These are your eyes. Of course, normally there is no nose. Jesse has a question. Yes, Jesse. Jesse, you can unmute and you ask. When you guys raise a hand, you should always unmute very fast, and then you ask. Okay, let me continue. Okay. Technospark, you don't know. Okay, let me explain. Now, of course, you know that a skeleton does not have a nose. There are just teeth there and the jaw. Sometimes when the jaw has fallen off. So this is representing the backbone. I already told you this is representing the backbone, and this is like the neck region. Now, from your head, in the head, this is where you find the brain. And then in the neck, you find cranial nerves. They are cranial nerves because they serve or they transmit impulses from the cranium. Cranium is the same as skull, the head bone, the skull or cranium. So these nerves in the neck are called cranial nerves. And then the rest of the nerves that radiate just from the thoracic region downward, you can call them the spinal nerves since they serve the spinal cord. They serve the spine. So all these nerves make up the peripheral nervous system. So whoever was choosing E is actually correct. Is actually correct. Whoever was in E is actually correct. I saw some people were choosing E. Some people are choosing D. I'm seeing Muthaire, Martha, Judith Prosi, Lisa, and then Danny. Yeah, that is correct. So I think you've understood that what makes up the peripheral. Peripheral, for some of you have forgotten, it means at the extreme side. So these nerves serve parts on the sides of the central nervous system. So, so what does the peripheral nervous system do? Peripheral, that thing that we have said that it's on the side, made up of nerves, cranial, and thoracic and spinal, which are on the side. What do they do? So you find that these are the nerves just from the neck region, as well as from the thoracic, the spinal, those that radiate from the spinal cord. Number 1, they connect the central nervous system to other organs. skin and the limbs. Skin means the olususu, the skin, outermost layer, and then limbs means legs and hands, both fall under limbs. Now, very many people tend to think that limbs means only legs, but it doesn't mean only legs. It means both the hands as well as the legs. And then secondly, allows the brain and spinal cord to receive and send information to other areas of the body because they are out. Okay, they are out. And then another function of the peripheral nervous system is carries sensory and motor information. Now, some of these terms, it's the first time you're seeing them. So don't worry. We shall be learning them slowly. Don't worry about the new terms, but in case you're lost, just feel free to raise your hand such that you don't go off. I told you that we are using this chat box to only ask questions, not to just chat, because we are only having an hour of the lesson, and the lesson is only once a week, so don't waste the lesson. And then the fourth one is regulates involuntary functions. Remember, involuntary, it means you don't will for such functions to occur. Can you tell me that you can say, hey, let my heart stop pumping, or let my intestines stop digesting food? Can you? Are you even aware? Do you know that right now, if you have taken food, your stomach and intestines right now they're digesting food? Are you aware? So you may not even be aware that such processes are happening. Okay, so we can continue. So the nervous system consists of receptors, just like the word receptor. Okay, Misha is saying, which topic are we on? I've just joined. Why do you come late? Please get yourselves a timetable and do not ask questions which are okay. So we can continue. The nervous system consists of the receptors, those that receive the stimuli or they detect the stimuli in the environment. Okay. Ramadan has a question. Yes, Ramadan, can you unmute and ask? Yes, Ramadan, we are listening to you. What's your question? Okay, I have not got what she's saying. Okay. Okay, so we can continue. Then we have the central nervous system. That is, these are components of the nervous system, which is made up of the brain and spinal cord. Then also the peripheral nervous system, which is made up of the voluntary nerves, which are mainly in the spinal nerves, and the involuntary nerves, which are mainly in the cranial nerves, those ones in the neck. Okay. And then Timani is saying, Mr. Are we writing notes? No, please, you don't need to write notes. You just have to make sure that your ears and eyes can be able to understand. If in case you want these notes will be available in Google Classroom. So you don't need to write notes. The notes will be available. If you want to write them, you'll just download from Google Classroom, and then you can, if you wish. It's not a must. So the peripheral, I've just explained it, and then the effectors, which are the ones that carry out the response. Now, I've already told that the cranial nerves go from the brain. Okay, they are the ones here in the neck. Let me circle it here. These ones, the cranial nerves, they're going to serve the eyes. Okay, they're going to serve the mouth. That's why your eyes blinks without you noticing. Okay, they're going to serve your ears and other parts of the head here. Then you'll also have the central nerves, which are in the brain and spinal cord. I've already told that this brain, these are nerve cells. The whole brain is made up of nerve cells. And then the peripheral nerves, peripheral, don't mind about these words. These words show you how you can pronounce these words, because some of these scientific terms, they disturb people in terms of pronunciation. So this is peripheral nerves go from the spinal cord to the arms, legs, feet. So these others, so that serve all these other areas. Then you also have the autonomic nerves, which go from the spinal cord to the lungs, stomach, heart, intestines, bladder, and sex organs. Yeah, because even the sex organs that you guys have, they're also supplied by nerves. In case those nerves get damages, your sexual organ may never work again. Okay, so all these nerves are important. That's why I normally tell students that we are wired beings. We have wires on every bit, whichever body part that you have on your body. And when you touch there, you can something. That means it is wired. There are some wires, and those wires are nerve cells. They are those nerve cells. And to tell you how these nerve cells are located and how important they are, sometimes when you sit badly, you may sit and you press against certain nerves. When you sit and press against certain nerves, you may paralyze a little bit. I don't know whether you have ever experienced it. Alternatively, when they are injecting people injections, they don't just inject anyhow, because should the doctor make a mistake or the nurse and they inject on the nerve instead of injecting in the blood vessel, that is trouble. I repeat, should the doctor or the nurse who is injecting you inject a nerve cell, you can become lame, you can paralyze for good, because these nerve cells don't easily heal. They take years to heal. So you can paralyze, for example, in case they're injecting you on the bum, your leg may paralyze and you become lame, or the hand may never work again, or a given body part, or part of the jaw or like you may never feel again. So these are very, very sensitive. Just like you getting a knife or a scissor and you cut a wire which is supplying a certain bulb, whereby whenever you switch on, it doesn't light because the connection was cut off. So these are important connections. Now, if you have understood, I have a question for you. All the nerve tissue outside the brain and spinal cord is there? All the nerve tissue outside the brain and spinal cord is there? Yes, you can become lame for good. That is true. So can I have answers for this question? All the nerve tissue outside the brain and spinal cord is the dash nerve system. Let me see. Jezia says A, in Mbabazi, Lydia, they're all saying A, or J saying A. Joel, Mary, taking Honorin, they're all saying A. Yes, even Ernest, who was born in 2015. So I think everyone has been able to see that, yes, the A, actually. And I also agree with you guys. The answer is A, peripheral. Remember, peripheral means on the sides, on the sides. And if these things are on outside, then that means they are peripheral. Judith, Peterson, they're all saying A. Thank you, guys. we can continue. Now, remember the nervous system is made up of the central nervous system, which is the brain and spinal cord. And then the peripheral nervous system is made up of these nerves, the cranial in the neck region, as well as the spinal nerves, which supply the body parts. Nerve functions nerve cells have functions, or the nervous system, the whole of it, this kind of arrangement, it has functions. Function number one is to receive. Function number one is to receive impulses from all sensory organs. I don't know whether you guys understand impulse, but in simple terms, how information travels within the nerve cells. So those are the impulses. And the information could travel from, for example, you've just touched a hot object. So the information is going to come from your hands. So the hand or the fingers must have nerves in them, which can take it to the brain for interpretation. So how the information travels, it travels as impulses. You call it the electricity of the body. Okay, so it receives impulses from all sensory organs of the body. Secondly, it stores information. Can you imagine these nerves? Those are the nerves in the brain. They store information. And that's why you were able to remember that the central nervous system is made up of the brain and spinal cord. Okay, now this brain, these nerves can be able to store information. Imagine cells can store information. I don't know whether you guys know what cells are. If you want to really know what a cell is, some of you have ever slaughtered chicken or hens. I don't know whether you call them chicken or hen. I don't know the difference. And pick out, or some people eat heads of hens, like a head of a hen. Now inside there is a brain, or even some people eat cow heads. Inside there is a brain. Now that tissue looks like it's some kind of tissue if you have ever seen it. Imagine it has capacity to store information. Okay, so they can store information. Someone is saying having problems. I don't know how your network. Some people's networks are not good. Please buy some good networks for good data. Then thirdly, it correlates various stimuli from different sensory organs, because you can feel that it is hot here or it is cold. Now that is correlated, or there is no heat. Then it sends messages to all parts of the body, making them function accordingly. Yes. So even if you are in the dark or what, information is able to be interpreted by the brain, and is also involved in temperature regulation. All these are functions of the nervous system. Okay, so we can continue. Now, the nervous system, I've been talking of nerves. Yes, we are going to majorly talk about 3 types, just like people. How many types of people do you know? People, abantu. How many types of people can you think of? But they're all people, and they all have please do not add you in my chat box. So I've been telling you that. How many types of people do you know? We have female people. We also have male people. Okay, but female people behave. There is a way they behave, and you can tell that that is a female person. Also male people, there is a way they behave. You can tell that that is a male person. Likewise, here we study about 3 types of nerve cells. 3 types, and each one has its own way of how it makes or conducts work. The first one, which I want to explain to you, is called the motor nerve, or you can call it the motor neuron. It's the first one. And this is its structure. This is how, okay? If they are to remove it from your body, this is how it will look like. It will have a cell body, which is some kind of a layer like that, okay? Some guys are, I'll chase some of you from my class from arguing in the chat box. I'm going to chase them. I'll chase you. So I've been telling you that the motor neuron is made up of a cell body. Now this cell body is served by dendrites, or you can call them dendrons. Their impulses have been generated, and then they travel to the cell body. So that means the function of the dendrites is to conduct. Now, I want you to listen to me carefully for each part, because for each part, I'm telling you the function. I hope you're listening. For each part I identify, I'm telling you what it does. Now, these dendrites, they collect impulses and transmit them towards the cell body. Okay. Now, the cell body, first of all, it contains a nucleus that coordinates the functions of this cell or activities of this cell. That's number one. It also contains a lot of mitochondria in here, which generates energy for the cell. Okay. So when the impulses have reached the cell body, then they travel along the nerve, the axon. Okay. This wire, which is running through up to the effector organ, which can be a muscle or an organ, is called an axon. And it is in charge of transmitting impulses towards the effector organ or the gland. That is the axon. Now, this axon, sometimes it can have some fatty tissue on it, which we are calling the myelin sheath. Now, these swellings on the axon, this is the first swelling. This is another swelling. You can see. These are called the myelin sheath. They are called the myelin sheath, as you can see the word here. That's how they call them. Now, in between one myelin sheath and another, that space is called the node of Ranvier. The node of Ranvier. And this tissue, the fatty tissue, is secreted by this swelling cell, which is called the Schwann cell. So this Schwann cell secretes the myelin sheath. Guys, whenever you argue in the chat box, I am forced to look there, and you disorganize my explanations. So unless you're asking questions, don't chat here. Okay. So I hope I've just explained it. So this is the motor neuron. Of course, its cell body is terminal. To be terminal means it is one at one end. That's how you can easily identify it. And it has a long axon and short dendrons. This is a dendron, which is short. You can already see. Then another cell is okay. Let me first push this side. Another cell is the sensory neuron. Now, the sensory neuron, it is majorly to pick impulses from body organs, skin, eyes, ears, whatever. Now, this sensory neuron has, you can see this is the dendrite. Its dendrite runs from the organ up to the cell body. Remember, the dendrite has a function of transmitting impulses towards the cell body. Just like here, although here they are short, so this dendrite is transmitting impulse towards the cell body, much as they are many and they are short. But this one is transmitting impulses from the organ towards the cell body. That's the dendrite. it is long and one. So the sensory neuron has one dendrite. The cell body is like an axon branch. It's like a branch, and you can see that it has a nucleus, which makes it to control all the activities of this cell. Then remember, the axon transmits impulses away from the cell body, and this is the axon. The axon is short in the case of the sensory neuron. I think you can be able to differentiate the two. But the axon here in the motor neuron, it is long. It is long. You can be able to see it. And then it has these are called synaptic endings. Nothing much. Then the third nerve cell. Some of you have just joined, or some of you are lost. I'm telling you, these nerves are found in the brain, in the spinal cord. They are found in the peripheral nervous system. They are of different types, and we are learning about these 3 different types. The motor neuron, which normally has a function of transmitting impulses from the brain and spinal cord to body organs like skin, in case something is paining you on the skin or you've stepped on something. Then the sensory neuron has a function of picking impulses from their organ to the brain and spinal cord for interpreting the information. Then in between the two, as information is being transmitted, you have an interneuron. If you don't want to call it an interneuron, you can call it a neuron. It is a relay neuron. Why is it called relay? Relay. For some of you have been involved in sports activities where you run a marathon. There's that game where you share sticks. You run, you give another stick to someone. You run, you give another stick to someone to complete the race. That kind of game is called a relay neuron, whereby you pick the stick, like now in this case it is information, and you give it to another. Now this interneuron picks, it's normally most of them are in the brain and spinal cord. This is where they are concentrated. So they are going to pick impulses from the sensory neuron that is coming, let's say, from your hand. Okay, let me draw. I'm assuming this is you. Okay, this is you. This is your hand. You have just touched fire. You have touched a burning candle here. Okay, and then okay, that is your stomach, and then your legs. Now, in your hand, these are your fingers. In your hand, information is going to be picked that this thing, it will go to your brain, which is in your head, and then the brain will interpret it as this thing is burning. It's burning. Then it will decide that it is burning. Remove your hand. But it doesn't tell you to remove the hand. It makes the muscles in your hand to contract so that your hand can move away. So that information goes back via the motor neuron to these muscles in your hand. Okay, let me draw the hand when it has some flesh. I'm assuming that is the hand, and you have muscles there. So the information comes back and tells this muscle, and then the hand is going to move away like that. You remove it because it is burning. Now, who gives information from the sensory neuron, then within the brain, and then back via the motor neuron as interneurons, the relay neuron? They're simple and short, made up of just majorly the cell body, dendrites, and axon. Remember, dendrites pick information from the cell body. Information goes via the axon to where it's supposed to go. David S has a question. Yes, David.
I'm asking, the motor neuron sends information to the entire body.
The motor neuron sends information from where? From the brain. You get it? And what you must know, David, is you don't have one. Here we are studying, for example, there's so many male, and there are different types of male people, okay? So you don't have one motor neuron, you have many of them, and they supply different organs. Some supply organs within your intestines, heart, lungs, all that, but then some supply hands, legs, like that. So you have many, and their major aim is to transmit impulse from the brain straight to your body parts. Yes, that is true. Is that clear? I hope you've gotten. Okay. Okay. So, and the questions. I'm seeing Bana. Yes, Bana. Bana, you have a question?
Yeah, so is it the sensory neurons that have the effectors and the receptors?
Come again?
Are they the sensory neurons that have the effectors and the receptors?
Okay, thank you for that question. Maybe, Bana, you need to understand what is the effector, what is the receptor. Let me use a simulation of a hand. Let me draw it well here. This is how your finger looks like. This is how your finger looks like. Okay. Now, I'm assuming this is your fingers inside here. You have tissues, skin, blood vessels, and all those things. They're all in your hand. Now, this hand is the effector. Okay, the effector. Because it can carry out work depending on what the brain has said. But in this hand, you can also find sensory receptors here, just like wires. For example, if you have ever opened a radio or a torch or even a phone, that if this is the plate, you have different connections, different wires. So they're all there. So if this is the hand and it is having some muscles there which are effectors, which can carry out the work, there are also some sensory receptors. But these wires can be maybe close to one another, but they transport impulses in different directions. The sensory is going to be taking it to the brain, and then the effector is going to be bringing it back, commanding this hand whether to fold and you punch someone, or not to fold and you don't punch and you take it easy. I hope I've answered you. Daniela is saying, could you please pardon me on the function of the relay neuron? The relay neuron, just like I've used an example of the game, okay, where it picks, normally they pick information from the sensory neuron, and then they take it to the brain cells. The brain cells interpret, and then they decide what to do. And then the information, what they have decided to do, whether you cry, in case the brain has decided that they have punched you, you cry. Then the information instead is not going to go to the hand, because it is not the hand which cries. It is going to be taken to your organs. You have lacrimal glands, for example, in your eyes. Now, your lacrimal glands are going to begin producing tears. So, I'm assuming this is your head, and they have caned you. You have decided not to punch back, but to cry. So you have, these are your eyes. In your eyelids, those eyelids which cover the eyes, inside you have lacrimal glands. They begin producing tears. So you're going to begin crying instead of punching. So you have seen now, in this case, information has not gone back via to the hand, much as the hand is also an effector. Also, this gland can be an effector, that you have cried and then you feel happy now after. And then someone is saying, Bana is saying, I've totally understood. You're saying, I think receiving information and effector for producing an effect. What next? Yes. Is there any other question concerning discussing? Because we are left with 4 minutes, by the way, to end the lesson. I name Baba's Justin has a question. Yes, Justin. When I choose you, you unmute very fast and you ask your question such that we don't have that lag. Yes, Justin.
Like, I mean, like synaptic endings have no function at all.
Oh, they have. They
How
have.
could they
Now,
don't have like they're nothing.
okay, let me explain to you the function. Now, the purpose why I do not want actually to explain the function of these synaptic endings is it's a little bit complicated for now since we are just beginning the topic, but let me give you an insight. Now, when an impulse comes from the sensory receptor, it is not by magic that it crosses from the sensory receptor to the relay neuron. There is a gap in between. That gap in between one nerve cell and another, which is called the synaptic gap. Now, these synaptic endings, they are the ones which are supposed to ensure that the impulse crosses from this sensory neuron to this next adjacent neuron. But of course, the way the impulse crosses is that there is a chemical in the synaptic endings which is produced in the gap. Now that chemical comes and attaches onto another, on the synaptic endings of another neuron, normally the dendrites here. And then it makes the impulse to be generated in that next neuron. And that kind of concept has so many functions in the body. And that's why some people can be given painkillers and you stop feeling pain. So those ones, I'll explain them at a later lesson. Not now, because they may confuse you now. Mary Bbumba saying receptor to sensory neuron. You are writing neutron is neuron to relay neuron in central nervous system to motor neuron to effector. I don't know which question you are asking now. Is there any other question? We're left with 1 minute. And then this one is saying the sensory, I think receptor for receiving, oh, this one. Let me just pick another question. Yes, Justin. Yes, Justin, we are left with 1 minute. Please ask very fast. Okay, she has failed to unmute. Let me read this. Okay. Yes, Justin, can you ask very fast because we are left with 1 minute? When I ask you to unmute, you unmute very fast. Okay, she has failed to unmute. And from my watch, it is. Yes, please ask your question very fast.
I don't have a question, teacher.
Oh, okay. Okay, it has been a wonderful lesson, you guys. Goodbye and have yourselves a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye.
Thank you so much, Teacher Patrick. So we can end the lesson.